Welcome to the Richer Podcast, the show for women who want more. I'm your host, Sarah Coombs, mum, wife, educator, and the woman who took a $40,000 a year pay cut, scraped together $110,000 in 2 weeks, moved 15 times with 2 babies under 2, lived in 2 garages, and ran purely on caffeine and grit. Who, fast forward to now, has built a life that has me jumping out of bed every morning with excitement, because around here, every woman deserves to live a life she's in love with. If you're done choosing between motherhood or ambition, burnout or balance, this is your podcast. Each week we dive into powerful conversations that help you to build a richer life, one with more freedom, more impact, and yes, coffee that's still hot. So whether you're driving to work, winding down with a cup of tea, or stealing a rare moment for yourself, I'm so glad you're here. This is your time, this is your podcast. Welcome to the Richer Life. All right, girl, let's get into something that schools will never touch, but that every kid needs to hear loud and clear. Money talk. Not just save your coins in a piggy bank. I mean real, rich life lessons about wealth, earning, risk, value, and yes, turning the bloody lights on without a full-blown war in the hallway. And no, we're not trying to raise hedge fund managers here. We're raising kids who know the value of money, who understand how to use it as a tool to create safety, security, and freedom for themselves. That's the goal. Because let's be honest, kids don't care about the power bill until they realize it's directly linked to something they want, like a holiday in Disneyland. Then suddenly they're out here acting like they're in the business of power conservation. And in today's episode, I'm sharing stories from our home and other legends I know, and from some hilarious, very real childhood memories of mine. We're covering how to raise financially switched on kids from toddlers through to teens, with games, real life stakes, negotiation tables, and a whole lot of cheeky truth. If you need to reduce the power bill, so we'll start here. This one's gold. A family I know had a deal. If the power bill came under $450, the difference went into a holiday jar. This money went towards a reward that the kids chose together, and I think it was a day at Adventure World. So they sat down and did a budget together, how much it would cost, and what they needed to do. And what they wanted to do. End of the month, when the power bill came in, Mum would put it on the table, they'd sit down together, they'd see how much they'd saved, how far they'd gotten, and then reflected on the month that's just been and how they can get there faster. And guess what? The showers shortened, the lights got switched off, and the kids turned into tiny energy auditors, keeping each other accountable like mini CEOs. But compare that to my old boyfriend's dad, who was stomping around the house yelling, "Do you own shares in a power company? Turn the lights off," which didn't work, and his yelling was falling on deaf ears. But give them a dream to work towards and a jar, and you've got commitment. Another story I've heard, a friend of mine started doing this with her kids. They do weekly check-ins where pocket money is up for negotiation. But it's not just about chores. It's what value did you bring to the family this week? Cue contribution, communication, and a crash course in delayed gratification. When she started this, though, she didn't realize that she'd turn her kids into ruthless negotiators. They're out there with spreadsheets and arguments that would make a lawyer blush. They're learning money isn't a given, it's earned, it's negotiated, and it's tied to value. So I just want to share a story from Hector's childhood. Hector's dad was a stock agent, so he taught the kids financial literacy with the resources he had. When Hector and his siblings were young, he brought each of them a steer. A steer's a baby male cow, and said, "Right, son, I can sell your steer today for $900, or you can wait 5 months and maybe get $1,500. But if it gets sick or dies, you get nothing." Boom. Real world investing, risk assessment, and decision making, all wrapped up in one muddy paddock. Hector reckons they were checking on their cows like investment bankers in gumboots. That kind of hands-on learning stuck with Hector, and it's exactly the kind of age-by-age approach we've taken with our kids. So this is how we are teaching money in our house. We've decided to teach our money lessons in stages according to their age, and this is what it's looked like for us so far. From the ages of 0 to 5, we're focusing on earn it, save it, want it. So for 10 completed chores equals $10. 10 ticks on the chart. There's no shortcuts. If they want something, cool. What are you willing to do to earn it? This isn't about handing out cash. It's about teaching cause and effect. I don't like the idea of telling my kids, no, we can't afford that, or money doesn't grow on trees, because I don't want that to become our financial story. I'm really mindful of the language I use because I am careful of what I put out there, but I also don't want it to be the financial mindset that they inherit from us. But it does teach them to be realistic, because cash doesn't rain just because you put your plate in the dishwasher, babe. Now, throughout their lives, our kids have sat in on our strategy meetings, but particularly from the ages 5 to 10, they're sitting in on the meetings with our accountant, mortgage broker, and lawyer. Our strategy team knows our kids. If I can't trust them with knowing my kids, how can I trust them to make decisions that will impact my kids' futures? This gives our kids the opportunity to ask questions, and they ask big ones. At our place, when our eldest asked, "What are you working on, Mum and Dad?" that blew my mind, because it opened up the conversation for us to explain, if we're using this 6% interest and we're making a 9% return, what are we leveraging? What are we looking for on the deal? They get to hear how things are structured, why we make the choices we do. If we kept these conversations for while they're asleep, they'd never be exposed to it. And yes, we play pretend businesses. I used to play it with my sisters. We made fake money, ran beauty salons, cafes, and little did I know, I learned about supply and demand and how to avoid non-essential services unless you were the mayor like my older sister, who would mandate that we sent 2 letters through her post office daily. But as we've grown up, our older sisters have told us that they only played when they were hungry. And my little sister and I were the only ones who took the restaurant job seriously. This also reminds me of one of the proudest moments of my teaching career. So each year we do like a businesses where we run it in the school hall. The kids set up their business, they learn valuable lessons, and then the business market opens up for the day in the afternoons. And kids learn things like location. They learn that if they're at the back of the hall, no one's probably going to have any money by the time they get to you, how to create advertisements, how to create marketing. But we were analyzing the lyrics from the Nicki Minaj song Moments for Life, and she talks about how this is her world title shot and what feels like a world title win to her. And I put that question back to the kids. Well, what does a world title win feel like to you? And one of the kids wrote a whole essay on how his world title would be starting up a agricultural business that then provided income for 50 other families to be able to live. And I just thought this was like a fantastic mindset shift from the rich being greedy to creating, this kid was already thinking, I'm creating a business so that 50 other families can put food on the table for themselves. Wow. How amazing. Wow. So when our kids get to from 10 to 15, we want to focus on ownership, games, and investing. So all your obvious ones, Monopoly, but also stock market games where everyone in the house gets an imaginary $10,000 to invest over 10 weeks and do it as a challenge as a family. Because when I was 15, we were given $10,000 to invest in an imaginary stock trading platform for students who studied economics in Australia. It was only a 6-week competition, and for the first 4 weeks, I was in the top 10,000 students, but then Macquarie Bank took a dive and I couldn't get into the top 8,000 for the remaining 2 weeks. This was single-handedly the best lesson I've ever learned about risk. That one crash taught me more about risk than an entire decade of theory ever could have. And in this game, they can watch their mock portfolio grow. In these ages, we'll also let them invest real money, small amounts of money, in lower risk shares. They're learning your money can make you money, and it's fun when it does. But then moving into the 15 plus, we want to go into the risk zone and where the magic happens. So we'll be saying things to our kids like, you want an iPhone? Great. Here's the money, but it's going into Apple shares. When it doubles, you can buy the phone. And it takes them from being a consumer to a producer. It's like, well, if you're willing to give the company $2,000, but you're not willing to buy $2,000 worth of stock, do you really believe in the company that much? We also want to give them the opportunity to lose money. Yes, I know, controversial, but Our reasoning is it's better to lose $50 on a dodgy buy at 15 than $5,000 on a shiny get-rich-quick scheme at $35 at 35 years old. This will open up conversations about never investing money that will result in a sleepless night if you lose it. And also about the amount of risk you're willing to tolerate, because if we believe a deal or an investment is going to make you lose sleep, it's not worth it. And this is a safe way for them to realize their risk tolerances. Now, there's one topic I haven't discussed, and it's concept of giving. Like, lots of people have got these series of these, you need a saving, an investing, and a giving jar. Now, look, I like the idea of giving jar, but in our house, we are really talking about giving your time, because in this day and age, we constantly see local sporting community groups disbanding because there isn't enough manpower on the ground. From the age of around 11, we want our kids to volunteer, local clubs, charity events, school fundraisers, you name it. Why? Because money isn't the only thing you can give. Time is also a super valuable currency. Actually, we think it's more valuable than money, time, because we can give up time to make money. We can't give up money to make time. So we're trying to raise the kids that we wish we'd been. You think your kid is too old to learn this stuff? Nah, trust me, it's easier to teach them now than to watch them cry over a maxed out Afterpay account at 24. Now, you don't need to raise a future hedge fund manager. You just need to raise a human who understands value, freedom, risk, and the beauty of making money work for them. So whether they're 5 or 15, start the chats, start the games, start the questions. Not with a lecture, but with curiosity. You've got this, and they're watching more than you realize. Thanks for tuning in today, Richer Fam. If this episode resonated with you, or you know a family that needs to hear this, share this with them, hit subscribe, and keep the conversation going. Because remember, you do deserve more wealth, more peace, more power, and that includes building financial literacy for your kids too.